Good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes. My name is Rosa Escareño, and I'm the General Superintendent and CEO of the Chicago Park District. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Chicago's Soldier Field. As you can see, there is no other stadium quite like this in the entire world. Look at the backdrop here. Who can actually compete with this? This is not just a sports field, it is a multi-purpose venue that draws over 1 million spectators and visitors annually. Soldier Field sits on Chicago's museum campus, our city's front yard, a place like no other. Earlier this year, Mayor Lightfoot tasked Chicago leaders from across the city to come together to set a new vision to maximize the utilization of museum campus, which includes Soldier Field. I want to take this opportunity to thank the members of the Museum Campus Working Group for their work in reimagining the future of the campus and offering a vision for the future. As the steward of Chicago's Park District and all of the important assets that sit on this campus, nothing could be more important and more exciting for our city and for our economy. This stadium is a staple of Chicago's history. Soldier Field and the Chicago Bears have been part of our city's growth and evolution, building on Chicago's legacy, strengthening community, and building the strongest and the best fan base that exists. The Chicago Bears have had a presence in Chicago for more than 100 years. And since 1971, for more than 50 years, the Chicago Bears and the Chicago Park District have began and have had a long partnership that stands very strong today. Not only do the Bears contribute greatly to our economy, but the revenues derived from Soldier Field fund Park District programs across the city. And our partnership with the Bears extends to many programs to our youth across all the communities in Chicago. Plain and simple, Soldier Field is the home of the Chicago Bears and of all the fans and residents who love the game of football. As the new incoming superintendent of the parks, I am committed to further strengthening our partnership with the Chicago Bears, as well as with the Chicago Fire and our many other sport and event partners that work with us on filling this great venue. Through our partnership, we bring world-class sporting events and entertainments to fans and event goers. They deserve nothing less. And this past weekend, for example, a headliner, The Weeknd, filled this stadium. And it just shows the diversity of the potential of this great place. Today, I am excited about the bold, ambitious plan that will transform Soldier Field into a world-class stadium, building on the strong Chicago legacy to make no little plans. And so with that, I want to introduce the boss and the person that is going to introduce this bold reimagining of this wonderful place, our Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
Thank you, Rosa, for that introduction, and thank you for your leadership of the Park District. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Today, we're here to share our vision for the future of our iconic Soldier Field and express our commitment to ensuring that it will be an attractive venue for our residents and visitors alike for decades to come. Joining me in this effort is Museum Campus Working Group Chairman Richard Price. You heard from CEO and Superintendent Escareño, Landmark Development President Bob Dunn, Chicago Department of Planning and Development Commissioner Maurice Cox, and Deputy Mayor for Economic and Neighborhood Development, Samir Mayakar. Each year, Soldier Field proves to be an incredible asset for our city. From football games to major concerts and everything in between, this stadium has delighted countless audiences in its nearly century-long history. For that reason, it's easy to think that Soldier Field is a place where people go to have fun. But for our city, it is so much more than that. It remains a critical driver of Chicago's economy. The events hosted at Soldier Field generate direct revenue for the Chicago Park District, which funds programs across the city, as you just heard. But on top of that, it also generates hundreds of millions of dollars in economic activity and revenue for the city and for our businesses. Just yesterday, as you heard, Soldier Field seats were filled with fans coming to hear The Weeknd, who held a concert here. And already for 2023, dates are filling up. Huge concerts like these bring visitors from near and far to our city, who then stay in our hotels and go out to patronize our businesses, restaurants, bars, and more before and after performances. For these reasons and more, we need to invest in Soldier Field to ensure that it is able to continue to strengthen our economy and host events for future generations of Chicagoans. And as I have noted, Soldier Field must be a year-round destination. We must enhance the fan and visitor experience that is precisely what we aim to do. So, that's why I'm excited to share that we have developed 3 potential concepts for Soldier Field. The first, ladies and gentlemen, is a domed stadium. The second is an open-air stadium ready for a dome. And the third is a multi-purpose venue tailored for soccer. Now, not surprisingly, we are doing what we believe is making a compelling case for the Chicago Bears to stay in Chicago. They want a Tier 1 stadium environment to maximize revenues, and we agree. And we are going to keep making the case to the Bears, the NFL, and the public that a revitalized Soldier Field makes the most economic sense for that storied franchise. What's also important, Soldier Field remains a highly desired venue by many. Other sports, activities, music, and more. It's important to note that each of these scenarios will allow us to continue benefiting from Soldier Field regardless of whether or not the Bears choose to stay or go, and of course we hope that they choose to stay. But should the Bears choose to stay in our city, Soldier Field will be a top 10-tier stadium with a number of new features, making it a mutually beneficial resource. But should the Bears choose to leave, Soldier Field will continue to be a premier multi-purpose venue that is able to host an array of important and exciting events. We are in active discussions with other potential long-term tenants who could take advantage of but harmonize their tenancy with that of the Chicago Bears. I will tell you that in each of these 3 scenarios, we will strengthen Soldier Field's role as an economic engine for Chicago for years to come, allowing us to bring sports, music, and other events to our city, and keep generating funds to run the Park District programs that support residents all across our city in all ages in our 77 neighborhoods. Now, as Richard Price will explain in more detail shortly, investing in the future of Soldier Field is also an investment in the future of our beautiful and renowned museum campus. Since its inception, the museum campus has been a site of innovation, education, and entertainment. And while many residents and visitors alike have had the pleasure of enjoying the many things the campus has to offer, others haven't seen themselves or their communities reflected in the buildings and activities hosted within it. We must change that. As we seek to maximize the potential of Soldier Field, we will also seek to expand access to it and the rest of the museum campus, again, year-round. I have to thank Richard Price. Richard, thank you for saying yes. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for being so committed to the City of Chicago. I also want to thank the rest of the Museum Campus Working Group for doing an outstanding job. The world-class folks that were assembled around this table are thought leaders who took the challenge seriously and made innovative and thoughtful recommendations for which we are incredibly grateful. I thank them one and all. I also want to thank Bob Dunn for his leadership and really bringing a level of expertise to this project that is second to none. And I want to thank Commissioner Cox for his hard work and turning the vision into blueprints that will guide us as we redesign and reimagine Soldier Field. I also want to thank our partners in organized labor who have provided meaningful input and support as these plans will benefit the working men and women of this great city. I need to thank the Civic Consulting Alliance for their constant ability to say yes and help shape the discussions into something that is meaningful. So thank you, CCA. Importantly, I also want to assure the taxpayers of this city that we will continue to be prudent fiduciaries of your precious tax dollars. The specifics of the dollars ultimately invested will vary depending on which scenario is ultimately chosen. But the thing that will not vary and the thing that we will not waver is our continued commitment to maximize the return on any investment of your tax dollars. I also want to give a huge thanks to Superintendent Escareno and your team, Deputy Mayor Samir Mayakar, and Michael Fastnock, our CMO and head of World Business Chicago, for your collective and individual work to maximize the economic benefits of Soldier Field and the museum campus, and to ensure the benefits reach all parts of our city. So for now, I'll say thank you, and I'd like to welcome up Museum Campus Working Group Chairman Richard Price to say a few words.
Thank you, everybody. I'm really honored to be here, and it was a great privilege for me personally to be invited to participate in this effort. As a lifelong Chicagoan and somebody that is very interested in the viability of the city, this was truly a joy to be able to do this. And my job actually was made fairly easy because the mayor had handpicked all the members of the campus working group. They were, as she described, very capable, interested citizens in the city, and they did an amazing job. And I also want to offer my thanks to everybody in the working group who helped create what you're seeing today. They really did the heavy lifting as part of the museum campus plan, the vision of which I think we've already shared with you. I also want to thank SOM in addition to CCA and the others, because SOM was a great partner of ours as other resources were brought to bear to help us have a great vision for this. So I just want to tell you that the directions that the mayor gave the working group was create a vision. It's up to you. Figure out how you want to come together, how you want to collaborate, how you want to communicate with each other to really make something that is special today even better than it is today. And I think the group itself created 6 guiding principles that I want to read. And this came from within the campus working group. First and foremost is to enhance the campus attractiveness and relevance for all Chicagoans. Obviously really, really important. Provide a unified year-round museum campus experience. I think we go and come today, but we're challenged by some of the weather and some of the events not collaborating or coinciding with each other. Improve the multimodal access to and from the mobility and the mobility that's on the campus. We all know that that's a challenge, getting here and getting around, and that's got to be part of the solution, and we have that, I think, in motion today. And to ground the campus in Chicago's motto, a city in a garden, and the Park District's motto of a garden in the city. And I think as part of that, you've seen or heard some of what we want to do with Northerly Island in terms of walking paths, regardening, regreening, and other things that are really important. And then certainly, what as the mayor just said, is to harness the campus as a great economic engine for the city of Chicago. It's here today. There's a lot of good things going on, a lot of revenues being produced, but in my view, it doesn't even scratch the surface of the potential that can be here if we can all band together and work on this for the success. And then finally is to recognize the campus as the heart of a 20-plus mile lakefront in the park system. I mean, if you just look out there and see what we've got and had the experience of it, it's unlike any other place on the planet today and can be made a lot better. With those principles in mind, the working group developed a fantastic set of ideas to restore Northerly Island and promote nature, walking paths, riding paths, bridges, and other things, to activate various components of the campus and make the campus a more exciting destination for all Chicagoans, not just a few, and to improve the coordination across the campus, which I think is a very important piece of what we've already accomplished. Today, within the working group, we have every interested party on the campus talking to each other, collaborating with each other, creating ideas for each other. So we're excited about the vision, and we want to help the city bring it to fruition. I personally want to see that as well. A key element of the campus group was also to improve Soldier Field. And I think that based on a lot of interviews that the working group had with experts in this field that service and work on a lot of other stadiums around the country, I think that we were the beneficiary of their advice and their good counsel and their resources that they brought to us to create the vision that you're about to see from Bob Dunn on behalf of the city. So I'm excited about all the things that the mayor and her team have developed, and I think from this you'll see that it addresses many, if not all, of the recommendations from the campus working group relative to the athletic facilities. So I'm really excited about it. And with that, I'm going to have Bob Dunn come up and really talk about the important part of the presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Richard. I also want to thank Mayor Lightfoot for her introduction and the opportunity to join you here this afternoon and share with you the work and the effort that's gone into building this vision for the future of Soldier Field and the museum campus. I had the opportunity to sit with the mayor some time ago and talk about this process. And what I was told was, don't come back with something that is short of world class, regardless of who the main tenants are in the building. We took that very seriously. We put together a team of our company, Landmark Development, Johnson Controls, Hunt AECom, and Clayco, and began to move through a process that we've been involved in over many years in professional sports, in particular with the National Football League. We've had the pleasure of developing the other 3 stadiums in the North Division, so this is familiar territory, and I can say for the entirety of my career, I've always felt that there is no city and there is no venue that has the potential to define the future of this industry in the same manner as Soldier Field and the museum campus. So with that, let me walk you through the process that we've been working on over the last several months, working in coordination with Richard, Martin, and the members of the committee. We've really focused on 5 main issues. And those 5 issues really start with the uniqueness of this site and the uniqueness of this building. There is only one Soldier Field. The mayor mentioned that there are 3 schemes that have been identified. In reality, there's one approach to this redevelopment that can be applied 3 different ways. And let me explain what those are. The dome scheme is where it begins. There have been many questions. Can Soldier Field evolve to become a dome? The answer is very clearly yes, it can. How do you get there? The image that you see on your left gives you an understanding of how Soldier Field can become a dome. It's basically a hybrid of how we built Ford Field in Detroit and what most recently has been done with US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. What I'm getting at is the dome is built on 4 what we call super columns and suspended above the existing structure of the stadium. What you could not do is rest all that weight on this current structure. But you can build the dome above it and then enclosed so that the building is climate controlled 365 days a year? So the answer to that question is an absolute yes. Working inside the confines of this building as we know it today, Soldier Field can transform to become a dome. Secondly, the Dome Ready scheme is exactly the same as the dome scheme, short of the roof structure overhead. What's important to understand in that middle scheme, what you see in blue is new construction. What you see in yellow is structure that is retained. The reason that that's important is given the cost of stadiums today, being able to retain over 1 million square feet of structure toward the redevelopment of Soldier Field has a massive cost savings relative to building a new stadium. And the third scheme, the multi-purpose scheme, in some of the ways is the most interesting. Depending on what the eventual tenant base is of the building, to become a soccer-first building and to meet today's standards for professional soccer, the concept is to elevate the field 42 feet, and in doing so you create an optimal sightline, an optimal bowl for soccer. It also opens up the opportunity to reprogram all of that area below 42 feet to the field level today to create community programming that we've estimated could drive upwards of 4.5 unique new visits to the museum campus on an annual basis. So these next 3 slides will give you just a sense of how do these three schemes, these 3 concepts play out in terms of the design and the engineering and the execution. So we skipped over those, but we'll keep moving. So the second part of this equation is the site, the uniqueness of the site, and the uniqueness of this building. There is no urban destination district in America that has the benefit of 15 co-anchors basically in a pedestrian footprint. There's only one place that occurs, and that's in Chicago. Secondly, when you look at what is the formula for building a urban destination district of tomorrow, this industry is changing rapidly. The formula goes like the graphic that you see on the slide. Co-anchors surrounded by massive visitation. You circulate today over 100 million people in and around this campus. Visitors, traffic down DeSable Lakeshore Drive, others that reside and work in the area. Again, this is a formula that does not exist in cities throughout this country, any place else other than Chicago, in this kind of a concentrated effort. Those 2 factors together drive massive revenue. Repurposing this building drives massive incremental revenue. And so this is the formula for success. One of the things that we've done in this evaluation with our other partners in this, JLL, AECOM, and Accenture, we've done an extensive study of these 3 factors and what do they mean to the future of this campus as a world-class destination district. All of the measurables demonstrate the unique value that can be created on this campus, distinct from any other part of the city and distinct from any other part of the country. So the approach, 3 schemes which really evolved from one basic concept. How do we leverage the uniqueness of this location? And then the next point is, how do you unlock the hidden value that exists inside this stadium today? And these graphics really get at it. What you're seeing is a section cut at the 50-yard line. What you see in tan is the fan space today. What you see in blue represents underutilized real estate in the building today that can be captured and repurposed to solve all of the limitations that exist with Soldier Field today by comparison to an NFL standard or other standards of major tenants in this type of building. This is a critical point to understand. It's not that the building is functionally enabled to meet the requirements of a team like a National Football League team. It's how do we unlock the hidden value? And you're sitting in one of the most important spaces in the building that simply does not create value on game day. And then this next slide I'll touch on very quickly. It's a section comparison of this building, again, cut at the 50-yard line, and compared to Los Angeles and New York, the first largest market and the second largest market in the NFL. This shows where there's unique value in this building. It's among the tightest and most intimate seating bowls anywhere in sports. When you look at these sections, what you realize is the worst seat in the house today at Soldier Field is many rows ahead of and closer to the field than the other two largest buildings in Los Angeles and New York. An enormous home field advantage, an enormous competitive advantage in terms of valuing tickets, suites, club seats, et cetera. So you have a unique asset, its location and the bones of this building. The question is, how do we unlock that value? So that's point one in this formula that we've been working on to script a future for this unique building. The second part of the equation, the second, third, and fourth, is really how do we bring together those interests that can make an opportunity like this become real? And it really comes down to partnership. How do we bring together the interests of the city, together with the fans, together with the major tenants, with the teams? These buildings have become so expensive. It's never been more important than it is today to find symmetry and partnership between those three interests. And a couple of these slides I'll touch on quickly. What does the city bring to the table? What does the city have to offer to a major tenant like a National Football League franchise? Number one, it is truly the most iconic location in this industry. That can't be replicated. That cannot be repeated on any other site in this market. Number two, how do we remake the game day experience? You're going to see a series of slides here. And when you accumulate all of the ideas and all the opportunities that exist in this building, there frankly isn't another game day experience that compares to that. Number three, how do we create an immersive fan experience? This is where the world is going. In these buildings, in our urban real estate, in retail dining entertainment, it's about experience and immersion. And you'll see on some of these slides the ways in which we can create experience and opportunity that's unique to this building, unique to the lakefront, and unique to Chicago. And activate this building 365 days a year, unlike any other stadium that exists in the National Football League. And the fourth point, what does the city bring to the table? The ability, given the uniqueness of this location, the co-anchors, and the massive visitation that circulates around this site, it brings the ability to create a business model for the city and for teams that is unmatched, meaning driving revenue 365 days a year. The National Football League for a home team is basically a 10-day-a-year business. This makes a team viable financially 365 days a year at the dominant location that exists in this industry. So that's the second part of the equation. The third part of the equation really is the fan. In order for this kind of opportunity to become real, it is dependent on the fan, the consumer, the visitor. Whether it's someone that comes here for a game or comes into this building on a beautiful summer day to enjoy activation, amenities, food and beverage, things that don't exist on the campus now. And you'll see a series of slides that really speak to what this can become from a fan experience standpoint. Imagine ways in which you could diversify the use of this building, game day and non-game day. Imagine how we can take the guest experience in the bowl and create an even more impactful home field advantage, remaking and reshaping the bowl in many respects. There's many ways that we can create fan immersion. You see some of these illustrations that show the sort of uncaptured real estate that exists here, and much of that is because of the intimacy of the bowl. You want to create dynamic civic spaces that really build on the presence of this unique historic asset on the lakefront in the city of Chicago, in many respects with unmatched views. Obviously, you have to improve ingress and egress. And lastly, we'll just touch on one of the most important things about this building. How do we create something that is Chicago-centric? Something that when you see it on a national broadcast, everyone identifies with the fact that is Soldier Field. These buildings are more similar today than they're different. Real value is created when you create a distinctive asset of unique character. And so that's the fans piece of this puzzle. The third piece is the team. And I want to touch on a few key points from a franchise perspective. Had the good fortune of doing a lot of this work in this industry for a lot of years. We've been very careful to measure this opportunity financially in terms of what can this do, whether it's a football team, a soccer team, for the tenants, et cetera. There's no question. The opportunity as we've defined it in the illustrations that you've seen create the best opportunity for a franchise to maximize its revenue long term. Maximize revenue, you maximize franchise value. Point number 2 is there's an unrealized opportunity in this building to create naming, sponsorship, the type of assets that teams in the future are highly dependent on. And you've seen some of that in the images here, and do it in a way that it protects the integrity of this historic asset. Third point I want to spend just a minute on. One of the things that we've learned that's most impactful in this whole equation is the question of cost. It's early in this process to put absolute definition on cost, but here's what we do know. The redevelopment of this building, as we've shared it with you, without question, is substantially less expensive than building new. And so the obvious question is, how can that be? It's easy to say, well, it's an old stadium and it's more expensive to redevelop than to build new. It's not the case here. Because of what I said, you've got 1 million square feet of real estate that you're building off of. You are creating some new space, but when you think about all of the factors that go into cost of a new stadium, it starts with acquiring the land, buying out a lease, dealing with the unbelievable cost increase. We're now spending multiples of billions of dollars to build new stadiums. When you can capture value in that existing 1 million square feet and translate it to the future, that's hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of structure, if nothing else, that can be retained. When you add to that the dollars that inevitably have to go into a building that's 100 years old plus, and you accumulate all of those costs, and you compare that to building a new stadium, you're easily $1 billion to $1.5 billion more advantageous, and that number could grow considerably when you look at all of the things that are driving the cost of new stadiums today. Last couple of points for the team. I said, particularly with the National Football League, in so many respects, the local revenue which teams are dependent on is driven 10 days a year. This is an opportunity in the most valued urban location for a sports district anywhere in the country to generate revenue the other 355 days a year. And the last point, a lot of work has been done with the working group, with others, with a team of experts in this industry to look at things like access to the building, ingress, egress, traffic. There are solutions for every one of those issues. The museum working group identified the beginning of some of those solutions. More work has to be done, but there should be no question that all of those issues can be addressed and solved to address the issues that are important to a team long term. And so just to close, you know, the mayor put the task to us, how are we going to create something here that is world class? And hopefully this gives you a glimpse of the beginning of an opportunity that really I don't believe any city in America has today. But when you step back and think about it for a minute, Chicago already has what every other city in America wants to become. All you have to do is look around this building when you leave here today. Chicago already has the most important ingredients to make success and create a world-class entertainment destination for the next generation. Where do we go from here? In order to become tomorrow's most important destination district, we have to figure out how to bring together these three important linkages of city, the fan, and the team to find a partnership that will unlock this incredible opportunity that exists here in Chicago. So I appreciate the opportunity to give you at least a glimpse of the work that's gone into this, and I have the pleasure of introducing Commissioner Cox.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Wow, thank you for literally situating us in the space that's been transformed. It's kind of wonderful to stand here in this extraordinary colonnade and share Mayor Lightfoot's vision for three different options to reimagine one of our country's most historic and cherished sporting venues, Soldier Field. So this neoclassical landmark, this stadium, which was originally designed by Halliburton and Roach, grew out of the Burnham and Bennett 1909 plan for Chicago, which called for the creation of a public athletic facility on the museum campus. So ever since it opened in 1924, Soldier Field has been just that, the athletic icon on Lake Michigan and home to countless sporting events, generations of Bears fans, concert goers, exhibition visitors. And what has been amazing over its almost 100 years of activity is how resilient and how incredibly adaptable this structure has been to the demands of every generation of fans. It hosts an estimated 194 events annually, welcoming almost 1.4 million people a year. So I believe the three proposals presented today position Soldier Field to continue to meet the demands of the next generation of sports fans and concert goers and exhibition visitors. And they can do so while respecting and honoring the historic character of this landmark. And let's be clear, no other stadium in the country can claim such an iconic city background just blocks from a world-class entertainment district. Soldier Field and its surrounding institutions have been a boom for Chicago's economy, drawing hundreds of thousands of spectators from the city and the region. And let's also be clear, major professional sports teams belong in urban environments. At the center of our region's growth, and Chicago today has one of the largest, one of the fastest growing urban centers in the country. The excitement of sports is not just what's happening on the field, it's also about the complete urban experience that surrounds it. So fans, as Bob shows, want a variety of pregame and postgame events, including restaurants, bars, and retail activities. That's why each of the three design proposals before us today show how these entertainment amenities can be accommodated within the historic footprint of the existing stadium, repurposing spaces like the colonnade and finding some 500,000 square feet of other space without adding any new structures to the campus. In addition to upgrading the stadium, these improvements would coincide with the framework that was introduced to redevelop and reimagine the surrounding museum campus. New year-round amenities would complement the campus's assets and give the stadium visitors what they really, really want, and that is to be able to be in a walkable, pedestrian-friendly district. The framework for the museum campus shows how that enhanced connectivity to other cultural amenities can be leveraged and will give visitors easy access to more transportation options. So the proposed stadium enhancements, whether it be a dome or synthetic turf or raised field, will modernize one of the NFL's most iconic stadiums and vastly transform the experience of the fans and visitors. And on a personal note, this is my second effort to retain and enhance a major sports franchises and their future. I was the planning director in Detroit and oversaw the building of the Little Caesars Arena. That is now the home of not only the Red Wings hockey team, but also the Detroit Pistons. The case for the urban fan experience was so compelling that the Pistons moved from the suburbs back into the city, and the economic lift has been dramatic, helping to revitalize an entire corridor and spur economic development. And the Pistons are relevant again. They're officially back. So we can save the Bears a very valuable lesson. Chicago is their home. Thank you. I'm going to invite Samir Mayakar to the stand.
Thank you, Commissioner. My name is Samir Mayakar, and I'm so proud to serve as Deputy Mayor for Economic and Neighborhood Development. And I am so excited to be part of this historic proposal in this historic stadium that has the potential to impact Soldier Field, the museum campus, and our city for generations to come. So you've just heard a spectacular and world-class vision for this beautiful, underutilized asset in Soldier Field. And it's an asset that, to many, defines Chicago and certainly makes me proud every time I pass it on my train ride to work every morning on the Metro Electric. So imagine for a moment the events that we could host if Soldier Field were enclosed or redeveloped, and how much more comfortable in some of those scenarios most of us would be in December. Whether it's college football championships, additional concerts, Big Ten football games, bowl games, and potentially even the Super Bowl, Chicago would be much better positioned to bid on and win major events like these. And these events would generate hundreds of millions of dollars each year for our economy. Just as an example, you all know this is the week of Lollapalooza. The annual economic impact of Lollapalooza as a festival to our city is well over $300 million a year. So what we know is that post-pandemic, a mega trend will be experiences. It's why many restaurants in our city are seeing more activity now than 2019, and why so many experiential concepts are doing well across the world. So you've seen the renderings of all three options and the impressive amount of work that a very credible team of experts has put into these proposals. And the proposals today that we shared, they range in cost in a preliminary estimate from short of $1 billion to just over $2 billion. These costs reflect the latest conditions in the construction market, and they've been vetted by a team of experts. Now, in any scenario, regardless of what any franchise decides, Soldier Field is a civic asset, and it's going to require continued investment. Just as the major museums behind us are always upgrading their facilities, just think about the Shedd Aquarium. They just announced a $500 million transformation program. It is important that an asset like Soldier Field does not languish. So on a lot of your minds is, how is this going to be funded? Now, it's premature to lay out all the detailed financing plans today, but that work is ahead of us, and all options are on the table. And as you've heard, and the mayor's made this very clear, these options must be respectful to the Chicago taxpayer. We want the Bears to stay here in Chicago, and if they do, we are confident that an enhanced Soldier Field will transform them into a top quartile revenue team while also providing significant economic development benefits to the city of Chicago. Many levers exist to finance a project this ambitious, whether it's league financing, naming rights, debt capacity, and more. Our commitment is to have an open dialogue with the franchises interested in partnering with us. And let me be clear on this. An enhanced lakefront stadium with all of the assets here will be significantly less costly, as you've heard, than any new stadium in any suburb, at least by more than $1 billion. We have the benefit of our 60 million tourists, the largest convention center in North America, which I can see right here, and a reinvested and reinvented museum campus, and several transit options for access. So what we're talking about today can help the city compete for future events, but also represent a major cost saving for any franchise looking for a world-class stadium. So where do we go from here? Over the coming months, we will complete an economic impact study on these concepts. We will prepare a detailed financing plan for the multiple scenarios. And we will have deeper conversations with existing franchise partners and many new partners. And most importantly, we will deepen our community engagement and our stakeholder engagement. So today, you've heard the mayor's commitment to Soldier Field. You've heard from a wide array of civic leaders committed to this effort. And you've heard from a credible development team who's built multiple NFL stadiums. So we look forward to advancing this vision to a reality. Thank you, and I'd now like to invite Mayor Lightfoot back to the podium for your questions.
All right.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. Appreciate it. Members of the media, Asha and I will bring down the mics. 2 questions per reporters. We'll kick it off with John Garcia from ABC.
Hey, John.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Good.
It's a beautiful plan, an ambitious plan. What does it come down to? What does the decision come down to in terms of determining which plan you go with as far as the dome?
Well, as you heard, and I want to thank Bob Dunn for doing an excellent job, it's really going to depend on who is the anchor tenant. So we are going to continue our discussions with the Bears and try to do everything we can to persuade them to stay. But should they choose to leave, we've got alternative scenarios. So that's really going to be a big driver because partnership with an anchor tenant or tenants is going to be critically important.
Yeah, Mayor Dane Placco with Fox.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, how are you doing today? Can you just talk a little bit about what has been your most recent discussion with the Bears about this or any plan downtown? And when have you talked to them and what are they telling you?
Well, I had a conversation with Mr. McCaskey, George McCaskey, a couple weeks ago. I think it was about 2 weeks ago. Let him know that we had, what I thought was a very compelling series of scenarios that we want to share with them. Members of my team have talked to other parts of the Bears organization, and we've talked to the NFL. So those discussions continue. Obviously, they have a contractual relationship with the Village of Arlington Heights, which constrains their ability to go deep, but I'm confident that they're very well aware of the specifics and that we look forward to the opportunity to talk to them in more detail and really work through the different scenarios and the dollar amounts.
Did they express interest? Did they give you a green light?
Well, those discussions are ongoing. As I said, they have some legal constraints at this moment about what they can do, but we're going to keep making the case for them that it makes no sense to go anyplace else but stay in the city of Chicago.
Carmen, Univision.
Hi, Mayor. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
How much would this project cost, and where is the money coming from?
Well, as you heard from the presentation, the cost on the low end is just under $1 billion, and on the high end, $2 billion. But this is really going to be driven by who the anchor tenant is, and then that will drive the variety of financing options that are available. But I will just say this: this is an incredible asset. Been here for almost 100 years. One way or the other, we have to invest in Soldier Field. As you saw from some of the renderings that were provided by Bob Dunn and Landmark, there is so much unused and untapped real estate and potential where we could really maximize, I think, the fan experience, provide more amenities to folks that are coming here for different events. So you got to weigh the investment with the incredible impact. And then think about this. The Soldier Field is essentially available from late spring through December or January, depending on how the Bears do. Imagine having this as a year-round destination, creating even more economic value and impact for our city, our bars, our restaurants, our hotels. I think the impact alone in making the museum campus and particularly Soldier Field a year-round destination is something that we simply cannot pass up. And we're going to make sure that we move forward in a responsible way, in a way that is prudent to our responsibilities as fiduciaries of the taxpayer dollars. But I'm really excited about the potential that we have with this iconic asset that is very, very much well sought after. I mentioned that our 2023 calendar is already filling up, and I'm very, very confident that whether the Bears stay, and I hope they do, but even if they don't, we're going to generate a massive amount of revenue and financial impact for our city.
So the money is coming from taxpayers?
No, what I've said is, depending upon which scenario, It depends on how much the taxpayers are going to have to invest. We're going to have to invest some, of course, but the dollar amount really depends upon what the scenario is, and that's going to be driven by who is the anchor tenant.
Thanks, Mayor. Justin Cranes.
Hi, Mayor. Obviously, Mr. Dunn has another project going on across the train tracks from here. You've been pretty lukewarm on that development plan. Where does that stand now? Do you support the One Central plan, and do you think it could be a part of this? It's obviously not on the museum campus, but a part of this whole transformation.
Well, look, again, I want to thank Bob and his team for their incredible partnership in this effort. We're obviously today focused on the museum campus and Soldier Field, and I also don't want to get ahead of the state feasibility study that is ongoing. So I think those conversations are very much in progress, and we'll look forward to see what the state feasibility study tells us about the potential for One Central.
Then just back to the financing on this. Samir said those details will come. There'll be a feasibility study. What's the timeline on that? Do you think we'll have a number on what you guys plan to do before the municipal election?
Well, we're going to start, we've already started that work, obviously. We'll officially launch the feasibility study soon, but I don't want to put an artificial timeline on it.
Thank you, Mayor. Melody Blacklip.
Hi, Mayor. Ultimately, if the Chicago Bears decide to leave Soldier Field, all of these options would be great to support other professional sports teams. So I'm curious, is the city considering options or have a wish list of other teams they'd like to court to possibly become tenants of Soldier Field, obviously outside of the option for professional soccer that was mentioned?
Well, obviously, we look at lots of different scenarios, and I don't want to get ahead and talk about specifics, but clearly we have thought about the possibility of the Bears leaving, but I feel confident that that will not have a negative economic impact on the city or, frankly, the utilization of Soldier Field. This is a very sought-after venue. No question about it. And frankly, because of that, we have to balance a lot of different options every single time somebody comes to us and says, I want to put on this event, I want to bring this sporting activity. So I feel very confident that hopefully the Bears will see that there's an overwhelmingly compelling financial case for them to stay in Chicago, particularly given the delta between making the investment here at this stadium and what the costs are on today's dollars on building a brand new stadium from scratch. It's not even a close call, particularly when you think about the challenges of getting financing done in this state. So I think the answer to their problems, their concerns, their desire to maximize revenue, their desire to have a Tier 1 venue, are Soldier Field.
Tim, yes.
Mayor.
Hi there.
The Bears sent me a statement today saying the only potential project the Chicago Bears are exploring for a new stadium development is Arlington Park. Do you take them at their word for that, or do you think that they really will consider this plan and give it serious thought?
I think that there's no possibility they're not going to consider this plan. It would be foolish not to. You think about, again, the big difference between what it will cost, whether it's them or somebody else, to build a stadium out in Arlington Heights, and what the maximized revenues are and the potential here. And let's keep in mind, it's not only the venue, it's you got to have a fan base, right? You've got to have a constant tourist traffic and visitor traffic. You're not going to get that anyplace else, frankly, in the country, other than right here at Soldier Field.
If the tenant is the Bears, would the city be prepared to foot all $2 billion, or do you have a dollar amount of what you'd want the Bears to contribute to that?
Well, I don't want to speculate and get ahead of ourselves, but we believe in collaboration and shared value and investment.
Amanda, WTTW.
Thank you so much. How does this solve one of the central issues with Central Field, and that is the pain in the butt that it is to get here?
I think you meant Soldier Field. Yes,
sorry, what did I say? Yeah.
If you look, that was one of the major issues that Richard Price and his working group really focused on. I think there's a number of different options there. We're happy to share them with you. Hopefully you got the working group report that was issued, but making sure that people can actually get here in a timely fashion, not have to leave 2 hours when they live in the downtown area to be able to get here and get in their seats and enjoy themselves ahead of kickoff time. That is a major consideration for us. And then obviously the egress from the stadium after there's an event. It's a major challenge, but I think there's a lot of different scenarios that have been recommended by the working group, working with the Department of Transportation. Bob Dunn and Landmark have given us some really, I think, key suggestions. So we're going to implement those one way or the other. We have to. Otherwise, we're hurting ourselves by not having a simple, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly way for people to get here.
In terms of timeline, when do you need a decision from the Bears?
Well, we're going to give them the opportunity that they need to kick the tires on this. As I said, we're excited to go deeper with the NFL. So I feel like time is now. This has been a process that's been thoughtful, taken several months to make sure that we get it right. And this is the first step and not the end of the destination. So we're going to give them the opportunity to really be able to kick the tires. I'm sorry? No, there's not a deadline.
Greg Pratt, Tribune.
Hey, Mayor. Is there a central tenant that could be, aside from the Bears, or is there any, would you build a dome for anyone else? I mean, what kind of, is option one an option for anybody else other than the Bears as the chief tenant?
I could see that as an option for someone else, yes.
Like a potential another NFL team?
Plenty of cities that have multiple two NFL teams.
Mary Ann here on NBC.
Mayor,
Yes.
there was an article earlier this year that taxpayers are still on the hook for paying for the renovations from 20 years ago. So how much are they going to be excited about kicking in again for something like this?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of what the financing options are. As we said, this is really dependent upon who the anchor tenant is and what the various sources of financing are. But I've made it a hallmark of my administration to make sure that we are smart, prudent fiduciaries of the taxpayer dollars. And anything that we do, we got to make the case for. We've got to go into the public and engage and show them the value add. And this is such an incredible asset. And the stadium is a part of a larger vision for this campus to really enhance the visitor experience all year round. So I think we will make a very compelling case that any investment made of precious tax dollars will have a substantial return on that investment that makes sense for the taxpayers. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do it. But I'm confident that we can make that case to the taxpayers.
Well, last week it was NASCAR, and you had estimated it would have a similar impact of Lollapalooza, which is apparently around $300 million. But today there is a study, an impact study that says perhaps 170 to 2 million, far different than 300.
Well, first of all, what I said last week was likening the impact to Lollapalooza. I didn't say Lollapalooza, so I want to push back a little bit on that. And what you saw today was a statement from Choose that had an estimate of what that would be. Look, the bottom line is NASCAR making Chicago its first ever urban experience is a tremendous opportunity for our city. They could have gone any place else in the world, and certainly any place else in the United States, but they chose Chicago. And they chose Chicago for a host of reasons, because we know how to put on big events. We know how to make sure that the logistics work. We know how to make sure that we are maximizing value for an entity like NASCAR. And frankly, the level of excitement that I've heard from folks from very unusual circumstances, like hidden NASCAR fans, I guess, has been off the charts. So I'm excited. It's going to be a great opportunity for our city, and looking forward to being in the pit, in the infield, and waving the flag in July 1 and 2 of next year.
Thanks a lot, Mayor. That's a wrap, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.